Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing the team that I used in the Love Cup to go on a 14-6 run to eclipse 3,400 ELO for the first time this season. My ELO ended up at 3,403, which at the time of recording was number 34 in the entire world. Now the team structure is a very familiar one. Trash Wormadam on the lead, Druddigon, and Galarian Slowbro in the back. So it's very similar to the Scizor team that I posted earlier, but just with a different bug steal. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and I'm going to be showcasing as many different leads as I can and how I like to play them out with this team. Hopping into the first match, picking up a great lead, leading Trash Wormadam into Miltank. This is a positive matchup for the Trash Wormadam, as Miltank does not have as good of charge moves as Licky does. Licky can typically win the zeros, so as the Wormadam, you're more often than not just going to play zeros and go for farm on the Galarian Slowbro, but if it's the Miltank you're going up against, then it's actually Trash Wormadam that is able to emerge victorious. So Trash Wormadam is going to make it to Iron Head number 2 versus the Miltank, and Miltank will get KO'd. Opponent now going to send in Talonflame. I'm more than happy to concede the 1 Incinerate, and now I can send in Druddigon. Druddigon is going to do great here. Talonflame going to fire off a Fly, and then look to pivot out into Galarian Slowbro. Galarian Slowbro is now going to be hit with a Night Slash. This is super effective damage, and it grabs the first shield of the game. They can go for a Brutal Swing, but it does not knock out here. Brutal Swing does not get same type attack bonus from Galarian Slowbro, meaning I can withstand it, throw one Dragon Tail and the Night Slash. That's actually going to connect, and now I have a very clear path forward to victory with Galarian Slowbro. Slowbro is going to no-shield as my opponent goes for the Brutal Swing. There is Talonflame hitting the field of play, and now I get to start spamming out charge moves with the Slowbro. Slowbro is taking neutral damage from these Incinerates. Opponent is going to force the final shield. And now I have a pretty straightforward path to victory, and that's throwing 4 Poison Jabs and the Brutal Swing. Due to the fact that it's 8 turns versus my opponent's 10, the Incinerate damage will never register, meaning that I'm still healthy enough to survive their Poison Jabs, farm down the opponent, and take the win. We've got a ferocious opponent in the next match, going up against Jason, 2890, but the lead is extremely favorable for me, leading the Trash Wormadam into Ariados. Basically, every Ariados lead team is completely core broken to smithereens by Trash Wormadam, so you can stay in and play out the matchup, as it's a very, very favorable one, even if the opponent does go down shields. So my opponent is going to give up an early shield. They're spamming out lunges, trying to reduce my damage output as quickly as they possibly can. One note, confusion in this meta on Trash Wormadam I think is just strictly bad. You need Bug Bite, because Bug Bite is going to allow you significantly better play in a lot of matchups, especially against Krookodile. Here, I decide to bank a ton of energy on the Wormadam, and then I can switch out to undo the debuff, and now send in my Slowbro. I fire off the Brutal Swing, and that appears to be a CMP tie. My Slowbro loses CMP against most opposing Slowbros, so this ends up working out pretty well. Brutal Swing does not knock out. My opponent is going to get 1 Poison Jab. This will come down to damage registration error, but they do not get that move. Back in comes the Ariados. Ariados does have energy. I'm going to be shielding up on the Druddigon and firing off the Night Slash instantly, as I just need to put pressure onto the Ariados. Ariados is going to shield. I attempt to go for the snipe, but unfortunately the Iron Head does not trigger there. My opponent in the back, their final Pokemon is revealed to be Licky. I'm debuffed, which means Bug Buzz not going to do a whole lot of damage. I think I can make it to another Bug Buzz here, but I cannot. I should have just gone for the Iron Head. If I went for the Iron Head, it would have been a very straightforward game, but since I didn't throw it, now I'm forced into a position where I actually do need to call a bait. I'm able to successfully no-shield the Body Slam, and now it becomes a 50-50. Do they catch, or do they throw? And they end up throwing energy, so I get the CMP tie with the Druddigon, and that's going to win the game. The game could have been a lot more comfortable if I just threw the Iron Head with the Wormadam, but regardless, we're able to take the win. Trash Wormadam versus Licky. This is a negative lead. Part of the reason why I did end up switching from Shadow Scizor to Trash Wormadam is just the bulk. There's so many massively bulky Pokemon in this cup, especially with Alomomola surging in popularity. So having a lot of bulk, I think, is very, very valuable. Now here, you're able to just land the Bug Buzz, get them very low, and set up very nice farm for Galarian Slowbro. Galarian Slowbro is the most flexible Pokemon in this meta. The main things that it doesn't want to see would be a Crocodile or the occasional very rare Rotom. Opponent now going to send in a Alomomola to absorb energy from the Slowbro. On Slowbro, I do want to bank some energy before I end up switching out into Druddigon, because this is not the best use of my energy. I'm going to shield up the Psychic, look to bank a ton of energy, go for a Brutal Swing, and then after this, I will look to send in Druddigon. I honestly believe that I stayed in that matchup for a bit too long. However, the back being Galarian Slowbro is pretty good for me. I get to fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash is going to be shielded. Druddigon, no boost coming through, and my opponent does have the back-to-back Brutal Swings. I decide to let this through because I'm just going to trust in my Slowbro to win this game. But the moment I let it go, I realize my Slowbro is very low, and I'm suddenly worried that I won't be able to survive the waterfalls. I overfarm as much as possible, but I lose the CMP tie. And that is absolutely brutal because my opponent is only 2 waterfalls away from the Psychic. So I have to hope that I can get the farm down versus Alomomola, but the Alomomola barely hangs on, makes the Psychic, knocks out the Slowbro, and unfortunately we lose what I view to be a very winnable game. We get a great lead in the next match, leading Wormadam into Druddigon. This is a dominant matchup for the Wormadam, as Wormadam can very comfortably tank one Night Slash. It's never going to be in range of getting farmed down. And even though you have a lot slower pacing, look at how much damage the Bug Bites do in this matchup. Wormadam is able to output some serious pressure. Opponent goes for the Night Slash. This does not knock out, but I decide, since they shielded, I am going to preserve the Wormadam in case it does have value endgame. My opponent switches out into Alomomola. This cup, in my view, switch advantage matters less than in other metas, because a lot of the time people are just throwing very bulky things out as a safe switch, not even to try and make a play for switch advantage, but more so just to try and absorb energy, make opponents use energy inefficiently, and then try and reposition and have the Glacier Mon sweep. So the Alomomola safe switch, even though it's met with a dragon, it's still able to get me very low. It's going to be a Slowbro in the back, and now I get to overfarm quite a bit and fire off the Iron Head. Iron Head is going to be shielded, and now I can bring in my own Slowbro. My opponent only had 5 residual, which puts me in a very good position. They're now at the back-to-back, but this is a CMP tie. Their Brutal Swing to mine. At this point, barring a catch, this game's over. Druddigon switched out on only 3 Dragon Tails of residual, so all they can do to try and win this game is go for a catch. Druddigon is not going to make a move. Brutal Swing is shielded. In comes the Druddigon, but it does not make a move. They were just too low on health from all the Bug Bite damage from earlier. Brutal Swing KOs the opponent's Slowbro, and we're able to take the win. Picking up a very positive lead in the next match, leading the Wormadam into Crocodile, and this is one of the matchups why we run Bug Bite. Confusion, Wormadam would be useless here, but with Bug Bite, we're able to absolutely shred. My opponent safe switches into a Alomomola, and again we get to respond with Druddigon. Despite the type advantage, this matchup is not even all that comfortable for Druddigon, as Psychic plus the Waterfalls will still end up with me deep into the red. But that actually works out pretty okay, because since people don't value switch advantage very highly in this cup, at least in my experience, then overall people are more inclined to just let a low health Alomomola go. I actually end up getting a boost here. Unfortunately, won't get any damage. It's going to be a Slowbro in the back, and now I can just mirror. Safe in the knowledge that the moment they bring in the Crocodile, I can just send back in the Wormadam. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. There is the Crocodile, and Crocodile will immediately be met with the Iron Head. Iron Head will very comfortably knock out opponent forced to commit the shield, and they are low enough that honestly I could consider just letting this go and then getting the 1 jab head start, but they brick break. It doesn't knock out. Can I make it to an Iron Head? The answer is yes. Had they gone for a crunch, then I could have just got 1 poison jab to knock out without having to worry about taking the Mud Slap, because they were in 1 poison jab range. But since they ended up brick breaking, I actually get the Iron Head into the Slowbro, and that very comfortably puts them into a range where Brutal Swing will KO. There, I thought it was a CMP tie, but I got 1 turn Brigand, so I accidentally overfarmed by 1, but the good news is, the game is over. We're going up against a formidable opponent, Marto Galde, international champion, multiple-time regional champion, 3rd place at the World Championships, and it's a terrible, terrible lead. Trash Wormadam is unbelievably neutral into so many things, but if you lead into an Incinerate user, it's probably going to be a very long game, because I do have Pokemon in the back that can do well against Incinerate users, but he's played this perfectly. He grabs an early shield advantage with the Talonflame and then sends in Alomomola, because this is what Alomomola does best. You send it in to just absorb hits. Tank move after move. This makes my Slowbro's energy completely useless because I can't really get any value out of it because it just does so little to the fish. I'm going to fire off another Brutal Swing. I've gone down 2 shields at this point, and even if my opponent gives up Switch, that's still not a winning recipe for me. I get to bring back in Wormadam, get the Bug Bite down, but realistically, they're going to have something that does well enough against Druddigon when Druddigon is down a shield that they're going to win. Scrafty up a shield, that's just a losing endgame for me, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time and I will concede the match. Great lead, leading Wormadam into Wigglytuff. They save switch Druddigon, and this is a team that is just completely core broken to smithereens by trash Wormadam. They're going for the Night Slash, attempting to get the boost, but the boost will not save them here as it does not occur. Now I get to go for the Iron Head, grab the shield from the opponent, and I'm in a very comfortable spot. I'm just always going to match shields because I have a secondary counter to fairy types. I have the Galarian Slowbro. It's one of the reasons why I really like having the ABA strong to fairy, because if they lead a fairy and they switch out, you can very comfortably just reposition. So that way you have the Slowbro on the Wigglytuff later in the match. All shields now down. Trash Wormadam going to be met with Alomomola. Alomomola unfortunately does get the farm down. I tried to commit to the Bug Buzz there just because, I mean, a resisted Iron Head is going to do so little that I may as well try and get the big move. They aggressively pivoted Wigglytuff. I get to send in the Slowbro, and having a second charm counter feels oh so good as we are very comfortably in the driver's seat. They're going to go for the Swift. Slowbro able to get that farm down, and now the opponent gets to bring back in the fish. Alomomola going to be hit with the Brutal Swing, and whether they go for Hydro Pump or Psychic, neither move is going to do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, the switch timer not quite yet up, but Druddigon, very comfortable tanking a Psychic. That's not going to be an issue whatsoever, and I get to Dragon Tail it into a range where Dragon Claw will KO. So Dragon Claw, Alomomola, it's very bulky, but it's not surviving here, and we are able to get that win. Trash Wormadam, Ariados. So this is a repeat lead, but it's a very favorable lead. To me, the best way an Ariados player can play out of this lead is by lunging once and then banking 2 lunges and then switching out, because you know that your lunges are going to be more useful elsewhere. Iron Head is going to connect, doing some pretty nice damage, and then my opponent throws the energy. I do think that farming up to 2 lunges here and then switching out would have been the far better play, because they just got such little value out of the energy on the Ariados, and now Ariados is energy dry. Here I did make a misplay. I saw the normal typing, assumed it was Licky and brought in Druddigon. Slowbro is going to do better into a Miltank safe switch, because of course Miltank can threaten super effective damage onto the dragon with Ice Beam. Ice Beam unfortunately forces both of my shields. I'm going to go for an undercharge on the Dragon Claw because I want to exit with as much energy as possible, but my opponent actually ends up shielding. I was not expecting them to shield there, but that's very okay by me. They end up letting this go. In comes the Ariados with no energy available. The Ariados just doesn't really get any value here. Dragon Claw picks up the knockout. It's going to be Slowbro. Slowbro is going to get a full farm down. I thought that I could make the Night Slash, unfortunately was not able to, but the good news is the Dragon Tail damage plus all these Bug Bites that I'm getting is just putting it into Brutal Swing range. So the game is already over, the opponent just doesn't know it yet. Iron Head to get the shield, quick switch into the mirror, and this game has concluded. My Slowbro keeps losing basically every CMP tie that it plays into. Brutal Swing, not a problem for my Slowbro as it's at full health, but my opponent, under half HP, is gonna get KO'd. All right, we move to the final 2 matches, and this is going to be a very interesting case study, as both these final 2 matches are against the same player. I played them twice in one day. The first time, I actually didn't play very well, and I end up losing, and we're going to see the adjustments that I make from game to game. Alomomola lead. Now, Alomomola can win the zeros with a Hydro Pump, so in the first match, I decide to protect the Wormadam. And this is a misplay, as now Licky hits the field of play, and Licky is very uncomfortable to deal with up a shield in this meta. If you don't have a fighter, you're going to be in a tremendous amount of trouble against Licky. Even if you have a Crocodile, if you're down a shield, Licky can put in some serious work. And now I'm going to send in Druddigon, as Druddigon can tank one move, but it's still very uncomfortable. My opponent did a great job of over farming. They're going to fire off the body slam. That does quite a lot of damage. And now I'm just losing so much of this Druddigon because I let Licky get an advantage. And my opponent is a tremendously good battler, and they're going to be able to punish that decision. I send in Slowbro. It's Skeleturge in the back. And I think this is going to come down to a bait call. I go for the Brutal Swing bait. I need them to shield here. The Brutal Swing does get shielded. I go for the Brutal Swing number 2, but I made it to the Surf. I didn't think I would get there, so I only went for the Brutal Swing, but watching it back, I made it to the Surf, and the Surf would have actually knocked out. It does, I believe, 16% more, so I end up calling a bait just to try and fight my way back into this game. I actually get the damage registration error, so the Incinerate does not register. In comes Alomomola, and even with getting damage registration error to potentially bail me out, we do get the loss. But now the rematch, later in the day, what adjustments do I make to play against Alomomola lead better? The first thing is I am not going to give a backline of an Alomomola an advantage, because Alomomola, its entire job is to be very bulky and tank hits, so that way stuff in the back can do well. This time, I'm more than happy to concede switch. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going for farm on Druddigon. My opponent pivots out into Licky, but now this is a very different game. I didn't commit resources to the Wormadam. Instead, I'm committing resources to the back line. I'm going to bank energy on the Druddigon, send in the Slowbro, because once you have about 25% of a Licky's health gone, it becomes a pretty nice matchup for the Slowbro. Slowbro can poison jab it into a range where Surf can knock out. Surf is going to pick up the KO. In comes the Skeleturge, and now I have energy everywhere. The adjustment in strategy is proving to be a very helpful one in this matchup, as my opponent now up to 80 energy on the Skeleturge, and I get to fire off the Brutal Swing. That's going to be shielded. There's a switch into Druddigon, and Druddigon is now going to fire off the Night Slash. They're at 100, and I'm shielding. The reason why is that Dragon Tail will register if I shield, and now I can just poison jab down the Skeleturge to win the game. Disarming Voice is going to KO the Druddigon. In comes the Alomomola, and it's immediately answered with the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to KO. In comes the Skeleturge, but I am not in a range where Incinerate will KO. And by playing it better, we're able to get the win in the rematch. And this is the 3-2 set that did get me over the hump and reach 3,400 ELO. Overall, I believe the sets on the day were 5-0, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, started low 3,300s. I do feel that there were quite a few matches that I left on the table. Realistically, the only matches that I think are very difficult or / borderline unwinnable are Incinerate leads, because Incinerate leads will often have a good enough backline that unfortunately Druddigon is probably not going to be able to sweep. I have beat some Incinerate leads, but it's always going to be a pretty difficult fight. Outside of that, I think the vast majority of team compositions, this team has a lot of neutral play into. And the main thing to learn with this meta is just learning how to manage those limited resources. When are you aggressively switching to get farm? Where are you using your shields? A shield usage, I think, is very, very important, because we saw the huge difference in the the final two games of this video. I used a shield on my Wormadam against an Alomomola, and it put me on the defensive from the start, whereas in the rematch, I ended up saving shields for the backline, not letting Alomomola generate an advantage, and instead went for farm on Druddigon, which put me in the driver's seat, and I was able to get the victory that way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.